Did you see that when DB came back and played for us, that they got mad that our fan base was booing her?
I don't believe in booing former players unless they left on like some type shit.
They thought they could keep the walls up forever, controlling who spoke, what was said, and when the world got to hear it. But the second Sophie Cunningham opened her mouth, that entire WNBA media playbook went up in flames. What started as a simple podcast conversation about a former teammate's messy exit turned into a full-on earthquake, shaking the league's old guard to its core. She didn't just tell her side of the story, she bulldozed through every outdated rule, bypassed the usual ESPN spin, ignored the league's carefully crafted PR scripts, and spoke directly to the fans in a way no so-called insider ever dared to. And the numbers prove it. Sophie just showed every player, from Caitlin Clark to the Indiana Fever's youngest rookies, that they don't need legacy media to control the narrative. They can own it themselves. This wasn't a slip-up or a soundbite taken out of context. This was a calculated, unapologetic, gloves-off moment that could change the balance of power in women's basketball forever. Sophie Cunningham didn't just stumble into this moment. She kicked the door wide open and walked straight through it. On her podcast, what started as a casual back and forth about Dana Bonner's sudden and messy departure from Indiana quickly morphed into something far bigger, something that exposed cracks in a system the WNBA's media machine has spent years trying to hide. She reminded everyone that, for too long, only a select few were allowed to tell the story, and those stories were carefully filtered to fit a safe league image. But Sophie's not playing that game. She went straight to the fans, speaking in their language, direct, competitive, and unapologetically real. And in doing so, she made it clear that players like her and Caitlin Clark don't need a middleman to be heard. No ESPN segment, no athletic column, no corporate-approved interview could match the raw engagement Sophie pulled in by simply telling it herself. The old guard? They're rattled because Sophie just proved that their gatekeeping isn't made of stone, it's made of paper. And it's starting to burn. The numbers alone tell the story the old media doesn't want you to notice. While ESPN was busy pretending Caitlin Clark's record-breaking nights weren't newsworthy, Sophie's audience exploded 1.6 million on TikTok, 1.1 million on Instagram, bigger than many of the so-called insider reporters combined. And here's the part that really twists the knife. She didn't buy ads. She didn't beg for coverage. She didn't sit through endless media training to learn how to sound safe. She earned every follower by cutting through the noise and giving fans something real. And then came the tipping point. Sophie revealed that her podcast isn't some side project in a spare bedroom. It's backed by Colin Cowherd's The Volume, one of the most influential sports media networks out there. That's not charity, that's strategy. They saw what the legacy outlets refused to see. That unfiltered, player-driven storytelling crushes the sterile, sponsor-approved sound bites every single time. And the ripple effect? Other WNBA players are watching her success and realizing they've been playing by rules that never actually protected them. Rules designed to keep the power in the hands of gatekeepers who are now scrambling to survive. What makes Sophie's move so dangerous to the old guard is that she didn't have to twist her words or sneak around to make it happen. She just told the truth from the perspective of someone who was actually in the locker room. No anonymous sources, no watered-down quotes, no waiting for a reporter to massage the story into something safe. She laid it out exactly as she saw it. Bonner came to Indiana, wasn't happy, and made her exit without so much as a text to her teammates. And Sophie didn't trash her for it. She was clear Bonner's a Hall of Famer, one of the most talented scorers the league's ever seen. But there's a right way to handle your departure. And ghosting your team, isn't it? That honesty cuts deep because it's coming from someone who lived it, not someone guessing from the outside. And in that moment, Sophie showed every player in the league that they don't have to tiptoe around the truth just to keep the media happy. They can own their narrative and still have the fans on their side, even if it means calling out a veteran or breaking an unspoken code. The fact that she could do it without losing her audience, in fact, growing it, is exactly why traditional sports reporters are sweating right now. The real power move here is that Sophie's not just talking into the void, she's backed by a machine that knows exactly how to amplify her voice. Colin Cowherd's The Volume didn't sign her to tick a diversity box or throw a token nod to women's sports. They signed her because they saw what ESPN, The Athletic, and every other legacy outlet refused to admit raw. Unfiltered player content outperforms polished, sponsor-safe coverage every time. That's why Sophie's show isn't just a podcast, it's a blueprint for a new era of WNBA media where the players control the message, not the gatekeepers. And the old school insiders know it, which is why they're now in full scramble mode, rushing to lock down deals with other players before they lose the last bit of control they have. They're watching Sophie's engagement crush theirs, they're seeing her audience show up in real time, and they can't compete because fans can smell the difference between authentic and manufactured. This isn't just about Bonner or Caitlin Clark or Indiana. This is about a league-wide shift where every player with a phone and a platform can bypass the system entirely and still win. And once that door is open, there's no going back. When Sophie looked straight into the mic and called the people saying Caitlin Clark isn't the face of the league dumb. It wasn't a slip, it was a deliberate shot across the bow, and fans heard it loud and clear. In that single moment, she aligned herself with the fastest growing, most passionate fan base in women's basketball and made it clear she's not afraid to burn bridges with the old guard to stand on the side of truth. While legacy media was busy tiptoeing around the narrative with safe phrases like, "she just needs time," Sophie ripped through the fluff and said exactly what millions of viewers were already thinking. She spoke to the fans in their own language, no polished PR lines, no guarded sponsor-approved compliments, just raw, blunt loyalty. And the response was immediate. Engagement spiked, her clips went viral, and suddenly the league's inner circle was forced to face the reality that the most magnetic voice in the room wasn't coming from behind a desk at ESPN, it was coming from a player in the middle of the fight. That's why her words didn't just stir controversy, they shifted the conversation, making her not just part of the story, but the one driving it. Sophie Cunningham just took the WNBA's unspoken Protect the Veterans Code and ripped it to shreds. For years, there's been this quiet agreement: you don't call out the inner circle, you don't expose the politics, and you definitely don't give the fans a reason to question the league's golden names. Sophie didn't just ignore that rule, she crushed it under her shoe. She told the truth about Bonner's messy exit, not because it was safe or easy, but because it was real. And that's exactly what fans have been starving for, while traditional outlets danced around it. And here's the twist that should have the old guard losing sleep. Sophie isn't doing this in isolation. Every time she speaks up, she gives other players permission to do the same. Younger stars, fringe players, and even established veterans are looking at her numbers and realizing they don't need to stay quiet to keep their careers intact. They can speak directly to millions, own their narrative, and grow their brand without asking anyone for permission. The second that becomes the norm, the traditional media's monopoly over who gets to tell the story doesn't just crack, it collapses completely. What we're watching now isn't just one player speaking out, it's the start of a full-scale shift in how WNBA stars communicate with the world. Sophie's success has completely flipped the incentive system. Before, players stuck to polished, PR-approved answers because they thought they needed the media's platforms to stay relevant. Now, they're realizing the opposite is true. Authenticity drives more attention, more loyalty, and more opportunities than any scripted interview ever could. Her model is simple but powerful. Cut out the middleman, speak directly to the fans, and don't be afraid to ruffle feathers if it means telling the truth. And the results are impossible to ignore. Huge engagement spikes, viral moments, and a fan base that feels personally connected. That's why we're already hearing whispers of other big-name players preparing to launch their own shows, bypassing the old media gatekeepers entirely. The proof of concept is right in front of them, and they know that once fans get used to hearing straight from the athletes, they're not going back to sanitized coverage. The balance of power has shifted, and every new player who follows Sophie's lead will make it harder for the old system to ever take control again. The real nightmare for the old guard is that Sophie's influence isn't tied to her stat sheet, it's untouchable. She's proven you don't have to be the league MVP to become a media powerhouse. You just have to be authentic, consistent, and fearless. That means even players outside the spotlight can build massive platforms, reach millions directly, and bypass the corporate filter entirely. And once that becomes common, the traditional access game dies because what are they selling if they can't control the story anymore? The Bonner drama might have been the spark, but Sophie turned it into a blueprint for the future of athlete fan communication. She showed that being real, even when it ruffles feathers, generates more loyalty and engagement than any polished press release. Fans don't want middlemen. They want the raw story from the people who lived it, and Sophie gave it to them without hesitation. That's why this isn't just a viral moment, it's a media revolution inside the WNBA, and the outlets that can't adapt are about to fade into irrelevance. The WNBA media landscape that existed even 6 months ago is already gone. It just hasn't had its funeral yet. Sophie Cunningham didn't chip away at the system, she bulldozed it, proving that players don't need legacy outlets, scripted talking points, or sponsor-approved fluff to own their story and grow their audience. She's shown every athlete in the league that the most valuable currency isn't controlled access, it's authenticity. And once you realize you can speak directly to millions without asking permission, you never go back to playing by someone else's rules. The old guard is in full-blown panic because they know the moment more players follow Sophie's lead, their monopoly on the narrative is finished for good. What we're watching isn't just one player shaking things up, it's the rise of athlete-owned sports media, and it's only going to get bigger from here. So, if you're ready to see this new era take over, drop a spicy Sophie in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we're not done exposing the system, we're just getting started.